Yo, welcome back. Rhino here with the Daily BA for behavior analysis. And behavior analysis, in fact, has a lot of great useful tools, resources, procedures, great thinkers, and ways to save the world with behavior analysis. That is being a part to solving some of the social, behavioral, mental health related issues in the field. But predominantly, all of our resources, all of our time is spent almost entirely in one area. That area is fantastic work, autism and other neuro differences. But for those looking to branch out, I have a fantastic resource that I want to tell you about today. And see, part of the issue is that there's examples of how to branch outside of the typical realms of behavior analysis, delivering services to different populations, solving different social issues, helping alleviate human suffering in different ways, but there isn't a clear roadmap. And while this book, 0 to 1, talks about how there is no clear roadmap, it is a very useful resource on some of the guiding principles on how people go from 0 to 1. That is, creating true innovative services, technologies, tools, etc. In it, Peter Thiel opens up with the need for creating miracles. And a miracle for him is through technology, through advancement. And if you've followed this channel for a while, I've talked about it as the blend of procedures with your different tools or technologies is typically talked about. That is the know-how with the actual ability to repeatedly or scalably produce some sort of behavior change. And what's beautiful is on the second page, he's already talking about technology in the same way as behavior analysts. Technology is miraculous because it allows us to do more with less, ratcheting up our fundamental capabilities to a higher level. That is at the core of what our field has done in behavior analysis. Just a heads up, spoiler alert, I'm gonna give out some of the information that I thought was really core, but not showing too much because you gotta read the entire book. This concept of 0 to 1, what does he mean by that? Well, he starts by putting out an axis here, talking about horizontal or extensive progress, which is copying things that work. This is what we largely see in behavior analysis. We know how generally to provide some effective services. If you want to go out there and start a business related to it, you have to figure out what those processes are, and then you need to be able to repeat them, albeit most people tweak them a little bit, but generally we know how to provide those services after the last 40, 50 years of research and extensive understanding. That being said, if you want to look at the vertical angle here, vertical or intensive progress, this is doing new things. And so he talks about 0 to infinity or 0 to 1. And that 0 to 1 is the whole concept of this. How do we as humans create truly entrepreneurial endeavors and create new value, solve unique problems in society? This is the foundation of what this book is about, from 0 to 1, not repeating other things. Both are useful, they're just different. So in the book, he talks about monopolies, and we typically hear about these as just negative connotations in the media about people that are trying to control entirely certain service sectors, industries, etc. But he talks about it a little bit differently in this book. And I'm going to quote, "Creative monopoly means new products that benefit everybody and sustainable profits for the creator. Competition means no profits for anybody, no meaningful differentiation, and a struggle for survival." So why do people believe that competition is healthy? The answer is that competition is not just an economic concept or a simple inconvenience that individuals and companies must deal with in the marketplace. More than anything else, competition is an ideology, the ideology, that pervades our society and distorts our thinking. We preach competition, internalize its necessity, and enact its commandments. And as a result, we trap ourselves within it, even though the more we compete, the less we gain. Parallels to this in the behavior analysis world, I don't want to go into them too much, but I feel like it 100% pertains that there's just this competitive thinking that slowly erodes good relationships and good outcomes and really collaborative efforts of our field. So what he's coaching throughout this book is how to try to form these creative monopolies. And remember, that means new products that benefit everybody and sustainable profits for the creator. Allows you to continue offering this in the future. He talks about how every monopoly is unique, but they share some sort of similar combination of things. And those are proprietary technology, network effects, economies of scale, and branding. Proprietary technology, that is the know-how, how you go about doing things, is something that you uniquely control, developed, and own for some sort of period of time. Network effects occur when you start to grow, when you have multiple customers, different connections in the industry, and you have the ability to start to leverage, right? What happens when you have a group of people interested in a product, using it, talking about it, things like that. Economy of scales is number 3, and it's actually really interesting. The idea is that can you use the same amount of resources to continually get more and more and more out of your product or deliver more of your service? So when we look at behavior analysis, typically people are working on a one-to-one, face-to-face basis, delivering behavioral mental health sort of services. And in this, you cannot get more work out of the one person. They have a limit. There's a cap. There's only so much they can work. 40 hours a week, for example, that's it. But if you start to incorporate technology, you can start to make it more efficient. That is, you can start to reach more people, deliver more services for the same amount of costs or resources that it was going to cost you in the first place. And lastly, branding. They all have some sort of brand. There's some recognition there. And he goes into that a little bit more in detail. I won't cover it here. Now, this was written in 2014, so just kind of keep that context here of what he's describing. Now, he brings in an interesting perspective on like a cultural level of analysis. So if I go up here to page 77, there's a really interesting breakdown of how much investment occurs versus savings when you're either optimistic, pessimistic about the future and whether or not you think that you can create that future or if it's uncertain. Looking at first the indefinite future, that is one that we're not really sure what it's going to be. There's a lot of uncertainty versus a definite future saying, I know what it is that we're trying to do, how to move about that world. And his examples are Europe and the president at the time was very indefinite and they were pessimistic about the future. What happens is you have a high amount of savings, really low investment. Whereas if you have a definite future and you're pessimistic, that is, you're not sure how to create and innovate, but you can easily look at what other people are doing and replicate those sort of things, which he attributes to what was going on largely in the economy of China. If you hop over up to optimistic, however, a definite optimistic future, this is one of the United States post-World War II, in which he describes that people are very optimistic, they believe that they can create the future, innovate forward, and there's a high amount of investment and a low amount of savings that allows our economy to sort of grow. The last one being an optimistic indefinite future, which is what he describes as today's future. I believe this is still where the United States and behavior analysis really resides as well. That is, we're optimistic about the future. We believe we can save the world. There's ways to do that, but we have really low investments when it comes to actually trying to put our foot out and branch out into novel service directions. There's unique people out there that are doing this. We're seeing it more and more, but it's not largely happening across the entirety of our field. And so you have an indefinite, unsure future. You're not sure how to plan and program for that. You're not even trying. As a result, what you're doing is you have very low savings, very low investment in things. You're optimistic, but are things really being created? Is there innovative behavior going on? Well, it's relatively low. And so what he's trying to do here is describe how he frames and understands businesses, economies, human behavior within that. This is just one way. There's also this really consistent theme of trying to talk about technology and the symbiosis with human behavior, humans and technology working together. Neither can solve the problems, it's the two of them coming together, which is 100% what we describe as a behavioral technology in our field. The parallels of this book are unreal. And if I could leave you with one last reason to consider picking up 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel, I'm gonna read to you 7 different questions that he helps you not necessarily answer, but learn how to start thinking about critically so that you can answer and decide whether or not you should be starting a business and you should be thinking about the 0 to 1 sort of approach, or if maybe you should be considering that 0 to indefinite and copying, repeating somebody else's model out there. Again, both useful, but there's a big difference. So those 7 questions are, number 1, the engineering question. Can you create a breakthrough technology instead of incremental improvements? Question number 2, the timing question. Is now the right time to start your particular business? Question number 3, the monopoly question. Are you starting with a big share of a relatively small market? Question number 4, the people question. Do you have the right team? Question number 5, the distribution question. Do you have a way to not just create, but deliver your product? Question number 6, the durability question. Will your market position be defensible 10 to 20 years in the future? And then lastly, question number 7, the secret question. Have you identified a unique opportunity that others don't see? The beauty of behavior analysis, of behavioral science, is that there are a plethora of different areas where we understand research that can really give us a competitive advantage amongst others and create really useful, workable solutions to some of the largest questions and issues that we deal with in society. So I encourage you to pick this up, not just for the how-to and all the different examples provided in here, but also the last paragraph. It leaves you feeling stoked. I'm gonna be using this thinking. I always incorporate these a little bit into how I run my own personal business. I hope you enjoy it. I hope this is useful. You got something out of it. Consider buying it real quick down below. It's relatively cheap, and I will see you in the next one. That's your Daily BA.